Shalom and welcome to Practical Spirituality here at Asia Torah in the Old City of Jerusalem overlooking the Temple Mount. I want to just make one announcement, and that is that we've started my club. I actually have a club. We have not yet figured out exactly all the logistics, but what I'm doing is we're creating a club. I'm not sure what it's called either. I think it's called the Yom Tov Club, I think. Or Rabbi Yom Tov Club. Yeah, Rabbi Yom Tov Club. Y-T... Rabbi, R-Y-T-C. Yeah. It's like the R-O-T-C, but the R-Y-T-C. Anyway, the club is, you pay $10 a month. You get absolutely nothing for that $10. But being part of that club, we are going to hire a bunch of social network people and videographers and like get like a lot more of the internet usage we can have a much bigger effect out of the work I'm doing. And the truth is I would never leave people flat. If they're paying $10 a month, that's gonna be $120 a year. For sure, we're gonna do something cool. I had an idea, by the way, and tell me what you think. Raise your hand if you like this idea. Instead of $10 a month, it's $15 a month. And everyone gets to submit projects. Everyone gets to submit, anyone in the club gets to submit projects. Whoever submits a project automatically gets into a lottery to get $5 of the 15, where we're all gonna give. So let's say we got now 5,000 people at $15 a month. What's 5,000 times 5? It's $25,000 to start a project. So that's another idea because I'm really big on helping young people get their lives started. And I really believe it's 10 times easier than you believe. And most of that works inside of you. And so it'd be pretty nice to get 25 grand out of nowhere just because you're in this club. So anyway, that's my idea. Raise your hand if you like the extra $5 idea for the lottery. Raise your hand if you think that's a lousy idea. Keep it at 10. I don't know. Okay, I'll think about that. Okay, we're doing today's session on deep Teshuva, and let's think about it for a second. What does it mean exactly, Teshuva? So Teshuva has different levels, and I think we're not really that aware of the levels of Teshuva that there are. So it's got different levels, and we're gonna have to use red. Let's see the old, newer black one. So the different levels is number one is to live right. How would you call it if you're actually like doing things right? Live right. What's right? Be good?
No, that's a definition.
Be a good little boy. What?
Not for me.
Live right, I think. I think it's live right. That ain't right. What would you say? Like what do you call someone who's ignoring Jewish law? And meaning, but knows he or she's ignoring Jewish law, and then they decide, that's it, I'm going to start keeping Jewish law. That's called someone who did Teshuva. So what do you call that? Okay, what do you call that kind of Teshuva? That's... Forget it, I'm not writing anything. We'll see what we're going to write later. I just so want to write something right now. I mean, we got this marker. I'm desperate. I got to write something. So, anyway... That's one kind of tshuva, and everyone calls that bali tshuva. Those are called bal teshuvas. Now, here's the interesting thing, is that ever since I've worked in outreach, which is now a lot of years, it's like longer than most of you are alive. It's 27 years I'm working like in full-time outreach. And all these years, I meet these super holy people who are Jerusalemites, and also people in Lakewood and Brooklyn and Muncie, and I'm meeting these holy people who are totally dedicated to Torah and mitzvahs, and they always say to me, I'll tell you in Hebrew, Yom Tov, matay ata chozer oti b'teshuva. They say, Yom Tov, when are you going to bring me back in Teshuva? Meaning I have these super holy Hasidim in Mea Sharim. It just happened last night with all these drunk fools on Zo's Hanukkah party, the last night of Hanukkah, which of course wasn't really the last night of Hanukkah, but we washed before sundown and partied for another 6 hours. So with 96% alcohol and a live band and about 6 vocalists. It was so sloppy. It was unbelievable. They finally moved this kid. Like, he looked about 15. They moved this kid. He could no longer hold his body weight up from the inebriation. So normally you don't put a kid with all the rabbis at the table. You know, the table's lined with rabbis, and then the Rebbe sits at the head, you know. And so they figured, like, he can't hold his own body weight up, so we'll just put him with the rabbis. They put him with the rabbis. He lasted literally about maybe 10 seconds before he just blew chunks all over the Rebbe's table. I mean, it was so classic. So, and then they just removed him again. They just, like, took him up. He was like totally limp. It was like a curtain or something, you know. And it was so funny because 800 drunk men who were trying very hard to keep their hat on, you know, but they're all jumping up and down the whole time on bleachers. So, like, hats are just like, and they're flying onto the table, and oh, it was really a great time. This year was a little more tame than usual. Normally it's like insane what's going on in there. By the way, there's a very sober group. We're not like pro-alcohol. This group doesn't even drink wine at Kiddush. They drink grape juice all year long. They drink 2 days a year, Purim and the 8th candle of Hanukkah, kind of, the night after. You know, but thank God the Rebbe was so drunk that he took back his life. He took back his life because a lot of Rebbes are controlled by their assistants, by the Gabbais. You don't realize this, but a lot of Rebbes are no longer, they're like, it's almost like they're on the other end of a stick, and their assistants are like running everything with the Rebbe like this. And we finally saw our Rebbe take his life back from these assistants of his. And he stood up on his chair and started dancing on the top of his chair. And it was the funniest thing to watch. About 6 or 7, probably 8 different people try to convince the Rebbe to sit down. And you're watching this because we're all on bleachers, and there's the Rebbe up on this, you know, stage with his beautiful table, and standing on his chair, going like this with everybody like this, you know. But every few minutes, someone comes and taps him, and it's like saying, "Please sit down, Rebbe. You need to be sitting down right now." And the Rebbe's just like smashing them and beating them, and then immediately like this. Over 2.5 hours, he would not sit down on his chair. He only stood on his chair until they just acquiesced. They just, you know, with their tails between their legs.
Is that Friedman?
What? No, it was the Prince Carlina Rebbe. And you should, just to share an even crazier story, is one year, the first time I saw it, he had just become Rebbe, and I saw him being controlled. And I saw this guy controlling everyone. It's the main assistant of the Rebbe. I'm going to leave him nameless for all the people watching this, but he shows up in all, you always see him in every picture of the Rebbe in all the Rebbe magazines. I went and I ripped him off. I ripped him off the Rebbe's stage and threw him under the bleachers. And then I pointed to him and I said, "Don't you dare come out of here until the party's over." And he just started crying. And then I brought everyone back up who were up there and have been up there for the last 40 year, you know, who were near the old Rebbe, who he threw off the stage. It was a whole coup he was up to. And like, everyone should just, all the people who've always sat next to the Rebbe should get away from him. Get away from the new Rebbe. I brought them back on the stage, and I kept an eye on him. Make sure he doesn't come out. 2 in the morning, I got a phone call from him. It's been such a love-hate relationship. Anyway, 2 in the morning, I get a phone call from him. I have no idea what he's going to say, and he says, "The Rebbe made me call you to apologize." I'm like, "You're forgiven. Never let it happen again. Whatever it is he did to me." Anyway, so these guys are always asking me that they want to be Balei Teshuva. They want to make me a Baal Teshuva. And you know what I've always answered them? I've always answered them, I don't think that's possible. Because I'm kind of taking a little jab at them, like, you're never going to be able to do tshuva. You know, maybe you can do tshuva, but these Hasidim and Me'asharim, they can't do teshuva. And when they say, "Why not?" they're like shocked that I would say that. Like, "Why are you saying that to me?" And then they're shocked I'm saying that to them. And I say, well, the reason is because you're already fully observant. and you're very careful about your observance. So you're really like, it's kind of hard to have someone fully observant do Teshuva. And then they were kind of whatever, they took that to mean whatever, and they walked on. Other conversations I had with them, I said, well, listen, think about it. Someone who's secular, who like jumps up to Teshuva and now is living the lifestyle of a Torah observant Jew. Somebody who does that, that's such a big gap that there's no way to take someone who's fully observant and get them on that kind of jump. You understand? To bump up their game on the level that someone who was raised secular bumped up his or her game. You can't take someone who's fully observant and bump them up to that level. Unless you're planning on creating an angel, because at that point you've got an angel on your hands, meaning they're already, to all of us, if you followed around some of these holy people that I get to rub shoulders with in Meir Sharim, they're already pretty angelic, these guys. Like, how could they take it up the level that a Baal Teshuva takes it up without becoming total reclusive, ascetics? How could they bump it up like that? And there's actually a Rebbe by the name of Rav Shalom Shachna Friedman, who's, let's do a little AC. You want to hit the AC? I think it's a little stuffy in here. Well, studying the panel might help. See it up there? Yeah. Great. Oh, it was on? Oh, it was on. So just turn it down a little, maybe. That's weird. I don't hear it. It's on, huh? Maybe it's on heat. Is it on snowflake? What's it got? You on snowflake there, or? No, it's off. Forget it. Don't worry about it. Something's wrong. We don't need air. Okay. So there's this Rebbe named Rav Shalom Shachna Friedman, who's the Hornsteipler Rebbe. And there's two Hornsteipler Rebbes. There's one in Brooklyn and there's one in Israel. And they're from the Tversky family. And this Rebbe is so high up in his service of God that he's like really a Baal Teshuva every minute. Like he's constantly moving that way. And he was raised observant, but he's a constantly Baal Teshuva man. Now, someone on his level of Torah should naturally have a lot of followers, but he's been plagued with a lack of followers. No one wants to be anywhere near him, actually. And he has very few followers. They're generally the same followers all the years. And one thing all his followers have in common is they're either Baal Teshuva or they're converts, which is like really funny because he is so far beyond his followers in every single aspect, being raised in a Hasidic court. You understand, like this should not be the people he has to deal with all day. I mean, it's always cool to have a Baal Teshuva and a convert hanging around, but not everybody is. And there's only 12 of them. And sometimes they drop out. But years we've studied this issue with the Rebbe and we never could figure out quite why it's like this. And we're talking about a man that sleeps only 2 hours a day for the last 40 years. And not every day he sleeps, meaning Thursdays he doesn't sleep, Shabbos night he doesn't sleep, which is 2 days in a row. So he's now been up, for 72 hours. He finally sleeps after the chulent, but who could stay awake after the chulent, He does sleep after the chulent. And he's on a full speech fast from Friday morning. Friday morning he does all this teshuva, and then he goes into seclusion till he shows up, until he gets a mikvah. He does tshuva all day Friday. You know what he does tshuva for? He does tshuva for all the sins of the week. This guy hasn't sinned at all. So they've got to be like, who knows what it means for him to be doing teshuva all day on Friday. I don't think we can understand that. But he stays in his speech fast all the way till around 1 a.m. Shabbos night. He won't speak at his Shabbos table either. And around 1 a.m. Shabbos night, he gives the Devar Torah for about an hour and a half. After that, he'll schmooze with you. But of course, no one's around. Shabbos day, speech fast, all the way till 3 in the afternoon when he's finally been at the table for like 2 or 3 hours, he gives another Devar Torah for about an hour, and then he'll speak to you until he takes his nap. Then he's on a speech fast till Saturday night, where he does like a 3-4 hour third meal, and he speaks the last hour and a half of the meal, and then he'll speak after that. This person's way out there, but way out there. I've had a couple of Aisha Torah guys hang around him a bit, and so we once had these 3 boys from Aish. Can you open that window a little bit? I don't know why I'm feeling stuffy.
Is that one open?
Is that one still open? No, they locked us. Yeah, which is good. Yeah, keep that one open for me. Anyway, I once brought 3 boys from Aisha Torah to him. Now, you have to understand, Aisha Torah boys are not allowed to date for a really long time, until they need like 2.5 to 3 years till they're ready to date someone, unless they want to get thrown out of the yeshiva. And you may be worth it, ladies. But otherwise, they're not allowed to date for like 2 to 3 years. Why? Because unlike a girl, if a girl keeps Shabbos for like 6-7 months, she's basically going to keep it the rest of her life. A boy keeping Shabbos for 6-7 months means nothing. He needs to keep Shabbos for like 2.5, 3 years before he can guarantee a woman under the chuppah that he will be guarding the Shabbos with her for their family for the rest of their lives. Like that kind of commitment for a man. Shabbos is very hard for men. It's emasculating. Men like to mark every lamppost they walk by. Okay, it bothers us that no one's going to know us 100 years from now. No one's even going to have any clue who you ever were. Just like you have no clue who anyone was 100 years ago in your own family line. No one's even, in your own family, no one's going to know anything you did. You'd be lucky if they know your name and your yortzeit. Lucky. And how many of you know yortzeits? The date to say Kaddish for people who lived in your own family 100 years ago. Meaning we're all totally forgotten. And that's an important thing to know now. Because if everything you're ever going to do or in this life is going to be forgotten, well, you better start living for the moment. And stop trying to be the big guy who's somehow made a difference. Because it's all like it's a sandcastle, whatever you're going to build. It's just a sandcastle. When that tide comes in, i.e. when you die, you're goodbye to the sandcastle. It's just going to wash away. So build something beautiful now. Like live in it now and live in your life fully. And that's the beauty of Shabbos. Is Shabbos, you can't do any more work. You can't make your mark anymore. Like once Shabbos comes in, the sun hits the horizon, your mark is no longer so relevant. And that's hard for men. It's very hard for a man to let go of his mark. I took a long pause because I want to get back to these 3 students were fresh at Aish. I mean, you could like literally, the paint was still wet. You know, their kippahs were like, you know, they still had the price tag on them. And anyway, so the Rebbe says to me, pulls me aside and says, Yom Tov, those 3 boys who came to me, they had already come a couple weeks in a row. So the Rebbe was like getting a feel for them. Not that he would talk to anyone. He doesn't talk to anybody, but he got a feel for them, and he said to me, Yom Tov, tell those 3 boys to get ready to meet their soulmates. They're going to be getting married. And I'm like, Rebbe, they're at Aisha Torah. That's not going to be possible. You know, that's not even within the realm. These guys are barely, they barely become observant at this point. And the Rebbe says, just tell them. And so I went up to the 3 boys and listening to my Rebbe, he's the Rebbe. So I go up to the 3 boys and I said, guys, get ready to date. They're like, are you kidding? Like, I thought we can't date for like 3 years, Rabbi. And I'm like, listen, this is what the Rebbe said. And so there was this whole discussion amongst the 3 of them who would have enough courage to ask the dean of Aisha Torah if they could start dating. And one of them finally, I guess they drew straws, one of them lost and went and asked. And he just laughed at them. Anyway, all 3 were married by the end of the year. All 3 boys. None of them dated. None of them dated. Each one has a crazier story than the other. Wild stories of how they perfectly met their soulmates. Happily ever after. Amazing. And so people got wind of this story. People got wind of this story, and a soldier in the south of Israel who really wanted to get married. He was a young guy, but he was desperate to get married, heard the story. So I get a phone call from this soldier, and he says, I'd like to get a bracha from the Rebbe. I said, okay, this is his address, next time you're on leave. So it turned out he didn't get another leave. What he did was he got enough of a break that he drove up, he took a bus up to Jerusalem 2 hours, went straight to the Rebbe, couldn't find his house, got on a payphone, and he's asking, is this the Rabbi Friedman's house? And they're like, yeah. Anyway, while he's on the phone with him, one of the sons of the Rebbe walked by. And he goes into the house. He says, Rebbe, Daddy, there's a soldier out there calling you from the payphone, like right down our block. You guys know what payphones are? There were once payphones. You put like something in it and it makes calls. So it had wires. Anyway, so the Rebbe left his house, went to the payphone to see the soldier. He says, are you looking for me? He says, you're Rabbi Friedman? He says, yeah. He says, what do you want? He says, well, I want to get married. I want to find my soulmate. And so the Rebbe says, okay, you should be blessed to find your soulmate. So he goes back to the central bus station. The girl standing next to him in line is who he married at the central bus station. Amazing. And I know this story intimately because the Rebbe won't go anywhere. He doesn't leave anywhere besides where he sleeps, where he learns, and where he prays. Like, that's it. And the mikveh. But it's all in one building. So he never leaves there. And so he sent me for the wedding. So I had to make the bracha for the Rebbe. Like standing in for the Rebbe. Yom Tov Glaser. I didn't bring a guitar, but I usually do if I lead a wedding. Anyway, so we finally realized why the Rebbe doesn't have any students who are raised observant, and the answer is that he's transforming his life every day. He's transforming life as we know it every day. And if you're already observant, how are you supposed to transform your life like that? And so people can't deal with him. And so anyone raised observant who gets near the Rebbe lasts for a week or two and then just never comes back. Or maybe a few months, but then they disappear. And this is the kind of high person that it would take to be a Baal Teshuva on this level if you're raised observant. One time the Rebbe was marrying off a child and he needed money badly. And I took a wealthy guy to his house who sold a property for a profit of $5 million, literally outside the Rebbe's door. He's like, hold on, I got a phone call. We're going in to learn, for the Rebbe's class. And you hold on, he says, yeah, okay, it's fine. He was telling his people to sell it. And so they sold it, clicked off the phone. He says, hey, I just made $5 million. And I'm like, great. So we go into the house, and I go to the Rebbe, and I said to the Rebbe, I pulled him aside before the class started. As he was walking in, I pulled him aside. I said, you see that Jew sitting at the table? I said, that guy just sold a house for $5 million profit like he was selling a box of peanuts. Like, please, just connect with him. Like, translate more for him. The guy knew no Hebrew. Translate more. It's in English, but not every word's translated. You know English. So, translate more. And the Rebbe looks at me with this look in his eyes of a bit of anger, and he says to me, it's idolatry. That I would treat him differently than anyone else. It's idolatry. And went on to totally ignore the guy for like the next 3 hours. He wouldn't even look at him. No eye contact with this guy. It's idolatry. And anyway, but this is the kind of person we're talking about. There are very few people like this, but that's what we mean by a Baal Teshuva. If you're raised observant, it's really going all the way, intense service like that. Anyway, I have many more amazing Rebbe stories. I'd be happy to tell you more, but I'd like to get to the meat of the class. I finally discovered how these people can do Teshuva. I finally discovered it, and it just dawned on me how they do Teshuva. And the answer is inner Teshuva. Meaning outer, you're keeping the commandments. You're already doing that stuff. So how do you do inner Teshuva? And that's what I discovered, is that there's a whole inner Teshuva. And what is that inner Teshuva? The inner Teshuva is when you realize that you are a massive transgressor of the laws of Lashon Hara. If you can realize that you are a massive transgressor, I hate to use this word, it's kind of Christian, but you're a sinner. When it comes to Lashon Hara, you're a sinner. And if you can do Teshuva on Lashon Hara, you, even if you're raised observant, can become above Teshuva. By just working on no more Lashon Hara. And also to be, one other detail. And that is to be really truthful about who you are. Really truthful. Meaning you have to stop sinning with the use of Lashon Hara, and you have to be really truthful about who you are. Now, what do I mean exactly by this? What do I mean Lashon Hara? Who have we been speaking Lashon Hara about? Who have you been speaking Lashon Hara? You know you're always speaking Lashon Hara. Always. In fact, during this class, every one of you has spoken Lashon Hara.
Ourselves.
Yeah, excellent. Say it louder. Who have you been speaking Lashon Hara about?
Ourselves.
Yourself. You speak Lashon Hara about yourself. Who's willing to stand up here, right here, come up to the front of the class, and say the following words with all your heart, like full, emotion and integrity and with charisma and with absolute truth about you, that you are amazing and beautiful and powerful and healthy and God's gift to this world. And who's willing to be that truthful about the fact that you were created in the image of God? Because this is what you were created as, meaning this is who you are. So who's willing to get up here and state the truth about yourself and stop bluffing everybody with some other plastic personality that you've created to cover up your Lashon Hara? Because deep down, everyone in this room has been saying all kinds of stuff about his or herself that's forbidden to say about anybody. I mean, think about these words. Think about, let's put up some words of things. Maybe you'll help me a little bit. What are things people might say about themselves? Let's put up a few things. Ugly. Everyone help me. Stupid. Weird. Keep going. Bad. Did someone say bat? Fat. And that may be true. Okay? I'm getting rid of fat. Fat's just... No, I mean, there are thin people who think they're fat, but that's like you need a psychologist. Okay, bad. Ugly, stupid, weird, bad. What else we got? Insufficient. I didn't hear what you said.
Not worthy.
Oh, yeah. How about, let's go right to the punch. Worthless. Okay. Unworthy is the nice version.
Undeserving.
Worthless. Undeserving. We're going to run out of ink here. Selfish is not one of the things we say about ourselves.
Lazy.
Lazy. Maybe a failure. And then we do lazy.
Good for nothing.
Good for nothing's worthless. Shallow. Come on, guys. What else do we say? You're missing the big ones. What do we want more than anything else in the whole world? We want to be
Pretty.
No, we want to be loved. We think if we're pretty, we'll be loved. We want to be loved, so what would be the thing we might say about ourselves? Unlovable, unwanted, a reject. It just goes from bad to worse, Unlikable. I don't know how to spell that. Unlikable, like that. Does that work? Unlikable. Can you have good penmanship? I don't know what that means. You mind writing the rest of this? Guys, keep it going. I expect at least a whole other row while I go to the bathroom.
Intolerable.
Pathetic.
Boring.
Intolerant.
Bummy.
Above.
Brainless. Undesirable.
Anything else?
Totally live streaming. Yeah, live streaming.
I'm about to be like watched by a ton of people all over the world.
Could be crazy, weird.
Crazy.
Oh,
Weird is crazy.
unstable.
Yeah,
Emotionally,
Unstable.
Come on. Yo, how you gonna do that? Yeah, you should
Deranged.
No, yo, go that way.
Yeah. Broken. Mental crazy.
Emotional.
Why not? Some people.
A liar.
Oh, wait.
Seats available.
Oh, wow. Okay. Unlikable, intolerable, pathetic, weak, boring, bum. Bummy. Bum.
Unknowledgeable.
Oh, that's a nice way of saying dumb. Undesirable, annoying, emotionally unstable, deranged, broken, psycho, liar. Yeah, and the list goes on. And the list goes on. In other words, you're completely crazy. You know why? Because you would never say this about the random person you'd see on the street. I mean, if you just saw someone on the street walking by while you were like sitting on a bus bench, you'd never come up with one of these adjectives about that person. Unless, of course, they were like dressed a certain way that made you feel inferior. Oh, we forgot inferior. So, unless you maybe felt inferior, but let's just say you didn't feel inferior, would you ever use any of these adjectives about a random person? Well, there's 7 billion random people walking around in the streets, and none of them are these things. So it's statistically impossible that you are. You understand? Since no one else is, except for you, so you've got to be crazy. Meaning you're the one who's crazy. You're the one who's schizo. Okay? Because remember yesterday we discussed the definition of schizophrenia was when an imaginary thing is seen as real. And so it's statistically impossible that this could be true about you. You understand? None of this could be true about any of us. And also, another example is if I were holding a little baby up, like a little sweet baby, and all the girls are going, ah, and all the guys are going, whose is it? And so I'm holding a little baby up, and would you guys say that about this baby, any of these adjectives? Absolutely not. Now it's 2 years old, a little 2-year-old toddler. Cutest baby in the world. Yeah, anyone gonna say that? No, 5 years old, still super sweet, cute, gorgeous. 5-year-old, 10 years old, a little harder to hold, but I hold my 10-year-old, so I'm holding my 10-year-old. Yeah. Are we gonna say that about them? The 10-year-old? No, okay, now it's a 15-year-old. I'm not gonna hold the 15-year-old, but I got my arm around a little 15-year-old cutie with a baby fat still on his face or her face. And are we ever gonna say that about them? No. At what point does the kid become all this? At what point? No, the answer is never. Never. So it's not even actually Lashon Hara. Did I say Lashon Hara earlier? Sorry, there's a worse sin than Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara means speaking badly about somebody, but it's often a truth statement. What about a false statement in Lashon Hara? What's that called? Motzi Shem Ra. Motzi Shem Ra is when it's a lie, that you actually besmirch a person's reputation. It's called what is it called when you destroy someone's reputation? It's called
Slandering, yeah.
slander. But there's a term for it. There's something that has to do with murder or something assassination. It's called character assassination. It's called character assassination. That's the term for it in law. Meaning, because you can go to court for that because you assassinate someone's character, and it now affected their business. You're going to be liable for that. That's the court of law, and even in Western law, it's one of the it's a legal term, character assassination. And yet, every single person in this room has been involved in character assassination, just under the radar, and we're not going to be able to take you to court for that. But you're definitely serving time behind the bars of these words. Because once you say that about yourself, good luck. Good luck with your marriage. Good luck with your finances. Good luck with your health. I mean, do you guys realize how much has to go right for you over the next 30 years? It's pretty scary. I mean, there's a lot of variables out there. You realize how much needs to go right for you for the next 30 years? Like, a lot has to go right. A lot. A lot of stuff's got to go really well. And there's tons of variables. I mean, when I see all of you right now, I mean, you all look wonderful, but all I see is question marks. Because, right now, it's, who will I marry? Where will I live? What will I be professional at? Meaning, what am I going to get good at? And how will I make a living? And, how many kids am I going to, and et cetera, et cetera. It's all a bunch of question marks. And over the next years of your life, especially right now, that's why I'm telling you, I want to really help young people, because I really help a lot of young people get on their feet. But what you're going to do over the next years is you're going to make exclamation points instead of question marks. Meaning you're going to take your question mark to a chiropractor, and he's just going to straighten out your spine into exclamation points. This is who I married, and this is my training. This is what I'm good at, and this is how I'm making a living, and this is the city I live in, and this is the house I live in, this is the car I'm leasing, and everything is just exclamation points everywhere. You're all going to turn them into exclamation points. But a lot's got to go right. A whole bunch of stuff's got to go right. And there's no way it's going to go right saying all this stuff about yourself. Which just puts you right into the statistics of the people who are not doing so well. Nobody wants that. And I know there are people thinking about maybe going to yeshiva and becoming observant, staying in Israel for a while, and learning Torah, but they're afraid how it's going to affect them financially in their life. Meaning not using these years for, building themselves financially. They don't realize that this could be the very best thing they could ever do, because maybe they'll start being truthful about how awesome they are. Maybe they'll start getting truthful by living in a world of truth around the Torah, which is true, with a lot of Torah that's true, and rabbis who live true to themselves, and people who have done that inner Teshuva and been true with themselves. And maybe that'll rub off on you. Maybe you could become truthful about yourself. That would make you very successful in all the variables, because those variables are waiting for your inner core energy to be clean. Because is this clean energy to have this going on inside oneself? Is that clean? Is that clean vibrational energy you're putting into the world? It's not clean vibrational energy. I'm not going to hire somebody who thinks they're intolerable or unlikable or undeserving. I'm not going to hire somebody who thinks they're unwanted. I'm just not going to hire that person. I'd rather hire someone who deep down has a vibrational energy of amazing and beautiful and cool. And when I say cool, meaning they're at peace in their hearts with themselves, like truth. So if you look at all these adjectives, what you'll realize is that you've got a whole other adjective besides these adjectives that are the way you cover up these adjectives. Because who in the world can go through life feeling pathetic or unlovable or unlikable or ugly or stupid? Nobody. No one could go through life like that. So what do? They put on this plastic, skin-deep personality that everyone should think that they're really, I don't know, I mean, you guys tell me. beautiful, smart, normal, holy, you know, the most important needed person in the whole community, better than everybody, you know, superior, you know, whatever, overachiever, workaholic, Miss Kabbalah, you know, social butterfly. You understand how it goes? There's a ton of other adjectives that we use that is a full bluff of who you are, so no one gets who you are. No one gets to actually get you. All they get is your Band-Aid over a wound that needs 50 stitches, not a Band-Aid. But what we get is a whole other list of things that you've been saying you are to the world at large, that no one should ever know this about you. And so this is the inner Teshuva. This is inner Teshuva. So now when people who are raised observant come up to me and say, Rabbi Glaser or Yom Tov, when will you help me do Teshuva? Matay ata oseh li bal Teshuva? I have an answer for them. That it's an inner Teshuva. It's a Teshuva of being truthful about yourself. No more motzi shemra, no more slander, character assassination. On the negative, no more of that. But on the positive is to be truthful about how amazing you are. Like, actually to be truthful about that. I mean, how is it that why do you keep Shabbat? Everyone say emes. We're going to end with this. Everyone say emes. Why do you keep Shabbat? Emes. Why do you brush your teeth? Right? Your teeth will fall out. Why do you go to sleep at night? Emes. Why do you eat 3 meals a day? You're not saying emes. What's going on here? Okay, why do you get some exercise? Emes. So, why do you keep kosher? Why do you learn Torah? What are you doing in Jerusalem? Meaning everything you're doing is emes, except for what? Except for who you are. That's the one thing you refuse to be emes about. I mean, you'll be emes about everything outside of you, but when it comes to you, you're willing to assassinate your own character and say stuff that's not even close to true. Just like the little baby grew up into a 20-year-old. There was no point where they became this, but boy did they become this inside their own heart. It's their own little secret. And this is where people generate from. It's really sad. And 17 years ago, I started a seminar just to get people out of this mess called The Possible You. You can check it out online. There's some beautiful videos to watch. Possible You. You can come to a seminar too, but the next 3 are in Hebrew, so that's not for any of you people. But there is going to be a couple men's ones at the end of winter. Shvat, Adar, Aleph, Adar, Beis. And then and they'll be in February. I'll be in New York. So if anyone's come in February, I think February 10th through the 14th, I'll be in Muncie, New York. Men's and women's, English. Shalom, everybody. And please be really nice to yourselves from now on. Okay? Who's teaching the next class, Rabbi?
I'm teaching part 2 of Love, Dating, and Marriage, and it'll start in about 3.5 minutes.
Love, Dating, and Marriage in 3.5 minutes.